Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another amazing episode of your one-stop podcast. This is Afrojournal podcast, where we bring you people blazing the trail, setting the pace, and also people who have stories to tell that can touch and impact lives. On this episode, ladies and gentlemen, we have the honor and privilege to be sitting right next to me, someone who says she is still in the works, but by profession, she is a medical doctor. Her name is Onyikosola. Hi, Ma. How are you doing today?
I don't know what to say, but hello.
She wasn't expecting it, but yeah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Onyikosola is a medical doctor, but I'm going to not let the cat out of the bag. She will start letting them out gradually. So let's start. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
What's the love for?
Nothing.
Tell me.
There's no cat to let out of any bag.
Okay.
Just
Don't worry.
to-
We'll find out.
All right.
We'll find out. So in the course of my conversation with you, let's start like this. You moved from Ukraine to Canada.
No.
Tell me, where again?
Ukraine to graduated, moved to Nigeria temporarily, and then moved to
Triangle. So it was Ukraine, Nigeria, then.
Canada.
What propelled the switch? Why did you have to come to Canada?
Oh God. Okay, so I would make it brief. I finished from Ukraine. The plan was to come to
What did you
Canada
study, sorry?
straight. I schooled in Ukraine,
Okay, what did you study?
medicine.
Okay.
So I graduated, but couldn't come to Canada because of the pandemic. It kind of slowed application processing time. So I had to go to Nigeria, and then I was in Nigeria for like 2 years, and then I came to Canada eventually.
Okay. So have you started practicing here?
No, not yet. I'm writing exams. I'm in the course of writing as many licensing exams as I can. So that's why I told you that it's in the works.
How has the journey been? First, let us start from the culture shock, and let us also delve into the culture change. How has it been for you?
So, with the fact that Canada is not like the first place I would be like that's outside Nigeria, I've been conditioned in a way because I had my developmental years in Ukraine. So I grew in Ukraine, I embraced new culture, and like I had to let go of some sentiments from Nigeria. So settling in here, the only cultural shock would be that I used to think Nigerians were like the most hardworking people till I met like really hardworking people, and then I'm like,
Let us know. Who are these hardworking people?
No. Well, not to be too specific, right?
Okay.
I used to think that we were like we are still the most zealous that I would say I've met. But when it comes to working hard, we have the Filipinos, obviously. We have the Chinese, we have the Indians. Nigerians, even in the midst of the working so hard, we still like create time to have fun. We're still not as driven as these same people. So I'm still embracing that shock, really, But yeah.
So how has it been since you got here adapting to, even if you said that you've been out of Nigeria before you got here, there are still some X factor type of differences that distinguishes one country from another country, right? So getting into this place, how has the journey been for you?
Number one, I was in Ukraine depending on my parents.
We are not ready for that conversation, ladies and gentlemen.
So, but Canada, I have to work so hard for my... I have to work so hard for whatever it is I'm doing. I'm working for what I eat. I'm working for my rent. I'm working to pay this, to pay that. And I'm still adjusting, I don't think anybody would ever get used to paying bills because the older you grow, the more your tastes like evolves, and then you spend more and all of that. But aside that, things are really similar. It's the same, like similar system. Maybe because it's a smaller country, that's Ukraine. The standard of living is not as expensive as this, right? And because it's here is more developed, you won't expect some things like happening there to happen there based on the level of development.
So, before we come here and start the conversation here and, take, a dive into your career, let's talk a little bit about Ukraine. Did you have a problem with language barrier?
Honestly,
or was it a language barrier?
Yes, of course. Ukraine is not an English-speaking country. And I took some language courses.
Oh, you did?
Before starting med school, yeah, in Russian. But it didn't last long because of the war. I had to move from the east to the west. And yes, we had to learn. You're coming to study medicine, so of course you would have to interact with patients, right? Not all of them speak English. So at the end of the day, you had to learn the language to be able to communicate with the patients. Outside that, you still need the language to communicate, like in places like the market, stores, and all of that. So yeah, it made more sense to learn the language to a certain extent where you're able to communicate
I see.
very well.
Now that we're here, let's start with, for Nigerians who are coming to practice medicine in Canada, because you are already in the works, the process is ongoing, right? Is it hard, tedious, strenuous to integrate yourself into practicing medicine here in Canada?
Yes, it is very discouraging. But because I'm young and inexperienced, there are some setbacks that I have based on my own personal decisions, right?
Okay.
But for people that are more experienced, like I'm saying 5-10 years experience in general medicine or whatever specialty.
Yeah, in their place
in a different country. The transitioning is not as difficult. Well, you have to write the exams, you have to meet certain requirements. But I based on what I heard recently, I think they are now more lenient. But it would work better for people with more experience than I have no experience yet. So like we are on different. It would be very difficult for me, but for some other people it might be easier. You understand? Based on the requirements they meet and like qualifications they have.
Oh, yeah, I see. So for those who are just off of school, coming to the system is a little bit tedious than those who already have the experiences back home.
Exactly.
What is your view? What is your take on paternity fraud? Hold up. All right. Because there's been rumors and gists making the rounds about the fact that women too need to be charged for paternity fraud, because a lot of men don't actually know that this person is my son or my daughter up until 20 and 30 years. So first, what is your take on paternity fraud?
First off, I have so many questions. So I'll throw it back to you.
Tell
me. So when you say paternity fraud,
this about to get interesting.
I get it. It's self-explanatory. But if at the point, now personally, if at the point my partner decides that he wants a paternity test on our kid or kids, I feel like I would literally check out of whatever it is we have, because it's a thing of trust, right? And trust is a risk. As much as it's unsettling to hear your partner tell you that they want you to give the kids like offer paternity test and whatnot. It's not palatable. It's not nice to hear. But I want to believe that for a man to decide he wants to run tests on his kids, he probably has things he has seen. And that's the only reason, that's the only thing I would deem valid for you to request a paternity test. If it's based on sentiments, not something concrete or some evidence or something very tangible, if it's based on your feelings and sentiments, that's a very foolish man. I'm sorry, but
well, I feel like you're being very diplomatic, which is amazing, which is spectacular. But don't worry, but don't worry. I'm gonna bring you back on track. Standing on the premise, on the premise of trust, from research, up until when this started to be the order of the day, we used to have pockets of paternity tests, like very, very few, tests, because men trust their wives. Now, what skyrocketed, what raised people's eyes, what make us see that we need to start doing this is because our trust, or men's trust, in quotes, are taken for granted. Now, will you say that, from your opinion, will you say that hospitals, because you've not still answered my question on paternity fraud, you didn't, but okay, you have to protect your gender, that's fine, that's okay. However, would you say that hospitals should make it mandatory as a process of documentation immediately after birth to do a DNA test?
I don't think it's in the hospitals. It's not in their ethics, really. It's not in the scope of practice of any medical institution to conduct a paternity test on any child without the consent of the parents, right? So it has to be that a parent has that notion that, I want my child tested. I want to know if this child is mine. And the parent is usually the father. And about what you said, I did not answer. I don't know what you want me to say about paternity fraud, but in most cases, it's always as a result of like an incident, right? Something leads to it. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'll go back to my first point, that it should be done not based on sentiments. If you have something concrete, then yes, it's a very sensitive stuff, You can't just, if you say it's trust, let's look at the fact that the woman has been with you for the longest, and then you just feel like the kids are not yours. It's you would do that test. Obviously, most women would give in. But what happens if the kids are really yours? What happens?
Well, then their minds are at rest. Don't you think so? I know so.
So you think the woman's mind will be at rest that the husband doubted her fidelity?
If you do a scrupulous research, a scrupulous one, you would notice that men didn't just wake up one morning. Like, it's been in the works for a while, but right now it is extremely open that men now just wake up in the morning and be like, oh, are this really my kids? Right. So if we do a paternity test and it comes out that these kids are mine, then of course, yes, we're all good. But if not, then there's a problem. So what if I've trusted? Because you know what? I was watching, and a lot of these issues end up in court. A lot of them end up in court. A man who figured that his two sons, I think one was 43, another one was 35, after DNA figured that they were not his kids. They were not. For 43, Onye Consola, for 43 years. For 43 years. Are you for 43 years? How mean can that be? So, how do you think, as a woman, how do you think that we can curb paternity fraud?
So again, it's a personal
stuff. How do you think we can curb it?
Can it be curbed? That's the question. Can it be?
I'm asking you because you know why? It is not maternity fraud. It is a paternity fraud. So how can we, as a woman, how do you feel that these things are not issues anymore? How do you feel that we don't poke the trust that we give our wives for years? How do you feel we can or at least reduce this epidemic?
So I would play the devil's advocate. That many
I was
people
expecting
don't
you
like
to do
to
that.
play.
I was expecting you to do that.
But first off, when you talk about a man that has a 3-year-old son that's not his son by DNA, have you looked at? So I would not look at the white and gray, the white and black. Let's look at the gray part. That probably is impotent, and in some cases, I know this is sensitive to men,
Please
but
go.
let's come back home. Let's come back to deficits. Let's come back to anomalies that there are some men that are impotent, right?
Sure.
That they probably don't even know that they're impotent. And well, women in a bid to keep their man's dignity very intact, you are aware that he's impotent. Your union with him might not produce anything. Again, this is me playing devil's advocate, though. I'm not saying
Have
that.
you playing?
So in that situation, she improvised. Just what I'm saying. It takes a level of wisdom to improvise that way. That what can I do to cover this man's shame? Or what can I do to cover what would be this man's shame? Because the man is not aware. But this is me playing the devil's advocate. I'm not saying it's right to take another man's kid to give another man. It's not fair. It is wrong. But in some cases, let's look at the exceptions. In some cases, some women did that to cover their man's.
Let me pressure you further on that exception.
Okay.
Right. Don't you think it is ugly? Don't you think it is grotesque of that woman, I beg your pardon, to not call the man and let him know that I've seen that we can't have children because you are impotent, before taking that meaningful step of going to have kids outside?
So this question that you've asked me, I might not be able to answer because I only played.
No, I'm playing it with you now. You understand?
I did not get to that level.
You understand? I just want to pressure you further on that. You understand? I'm playing it with you.
I did not get to that level.
Because you as a woman, you want to cover your man's shame. 100%. I get that. You want to keep your marriage. Your marriage is amazing. Right?
Yeah.
But still know that you cannot work and chew gum at the same time. You cannot work in A company and collect your salary in B company. Right? So, don't you think as a woman of virtue, you're supposed to let your man that you truly love know that he can't produce kids? Then both of you sit down and have a solution to it rather than just going outside and having kids and not even letting him know, but wait for years after to find out that those kids he calls his own are not his kids.
Okay, so when in this regard, again, playing devil's advocate, this is not reality. This is just based on our imaginations, right? What if she went to a sperm bank? I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying. It doesn't have to be someone else. What if she went to a sperm bank? There's also that, right? You can't negate that.
Sure.
I want to even believe that it's something that would happen in this generation, even more commonly. Go to the sperm bank, get something, get yourself inseminated, fertilization, and then you're pregnant. Still covering the husband's shame.
Do you know?
And for men, believe me.
Do you know that there are some men that would also advise that they take this step? Because the woman came clean to him.
So,
Do you know that there are some men, when they sit in the round table, right? When they sit around the table and the lady lets him know that this is what I figure out, you can't produce. What are our options? Do you know that that man can even suggest to go to a sperm bank and get that process done. Do you know?
Well, again, let's come back to reality. It's very wrong. It's honestly demeaning. It's wrong. It's dishonest. It's wicked to give a man another man's kids and act like they are his. It's wrong. It's unfair. But again, I'm not giving any excuse for anybody that has done that or that would do that, because people will still do it. Some women will still do it. It's wrong, but life happens.
What do you feel? What do you think women should do?
In this regard, it's a personal stuff, really. I can't do it.
What are just your advices to women who are right now? Some men are in their homes right now playing with that child, that 5-year-old son, that 8-year-old daughter. They're playing right now, and he doesn't even have a fraction of an inclination that that child is not his. What can women do to better help this situation from getting out of hand?
So I'll throw a question back to you before I answer that. Do you think that honesty would really fix it?
Yes.
For that question you have said.
Yes.
If honesty would fix it, everybody knows their partners, right? I want to believe that as much as honesty is the best policy, in some situations we have lied to save our faces, right? You have, I have, we all have, right? And again, I would promote honesty in every situation. I feel like it even sets you free. Yes, you've made a mistake. Yes, you were promiscuous. Yes, you were disloyal. But I feel like everything should still be like spoken about, and you should be honest about. Like, let your partner know that they are fathering kids that don't belong to them. Why did you give me that side eye now?
No, because I was waiting for you to finish.
I just told you that I promote honesty.
So the crux of your matter is that women should be more honest with their husbands.
Yeah.
If they figure out that their husbands are impotent, they should come clean and let them know and find a solution.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I know it's sensitive. Really, no man wants to discuss his infertility. It's a very sensitive case. But I feel like in marriages, I'm not married, so I don't know the dynamics of things I don't know how things will work in marriages. But because I'm big on communication, so I would expect that if you think there's something wrong with me, maybe by observation, or you want to suggest that we run fertility tests, and I feel it's something people should be able to discuss in marriages. You didn't come this far to decide that both of you would share your lives together forever and not be able to discuss something as fundamental as infertility. Do you understand what I'm saying? So be honest, be open, be truthful, discuss everything. If it's his child or not.
So this is not the devil's out. This is you now.
Yeah.
This is not the devil
I already
playing the advocate.
I already let go of that.
Okay, so this is you now.
Well,
and you're of the strong opinion that the hospitals, even the government, which I didn't ask, even the government should not interfere in putting that law.
I feel like it's wrong because, again, the question I wanted to ask you, have you thought about the emotional impact of, like, it would have on a woman who's been faithful all her life and she had her husband demand paternity test for the kids? They say after the test, they found out that the kids are, like, demands. And how do you expect the wife to feel? Do you think it's something she would recover from?
It is going to be heartbreaking. It's going to be very, very sad. Very, very, very sad. I feel like our heart to be shattered. I feel like our heart to be dilapidated. I know. But however, like I also said to you, right, which I'm going to recapitulate. I said that men these days, they didn't just wake up and start demanding for DNA tests. something drove that narrative to a point where men are now scared. Let's be honest. Because right now, it is more in the news than it was before. Men are now looking like, I understand. I had this conversation the other time, and I'm like, I know the toll is going to have on the woman. I know, especially the very honest and decent. We still have very decent women. We do. I know that, and you know, there's something about trust. Trust is like an egg. Once it's broken, it is. There's no how you mend a trust. It can't never be like its original form. Never, to be honest with you. But I also feel that, just like you said, women should do better. I just feel the first thing is a woman should let her husband know, this is your state. If you doubt me, go. I know some men are very stubborn. Honestly, I know. But then, let him know. Because your family, your marriage is built on a lot of strong foundations. You know, your marriage is being guided with a lot of strong pillars. One of which, like you said, is trust, right? Openness. You should be able to speak to him and be like, this is what I figure out. Right. And wait, let me even ask a question. Hold up a second. Wait. How would a woman I'm sorry. How will a woman because we have family who have been trying to have kids. Both of them are very, very potent. Both of them. The woman is fertile, the man is fertile, both of them. But it has not just happened to click. Right? That's why I see some of them probably, find some other measures and all that. How does a woman know that her husband is impotent?
So that's why I said now.
No, like how did she figure out? Like, how did she know that? You understand what I'm saying? Like, how did she figure out that without him going for a test? No, go. It's not following. The conversation is not following.
Listen.
How did she figure out that her husband is impotent?
There are ways to know now.
Without him going for that test. Please enlighten me.
I know.
It's not my field. Please enlighten me. I want to learn, please.
But then you don't know what her past is. I don't want you to.
What's the past? What's the past? What's the past? Tell me.
Hold on. Let me tell you something. First off.
What's the past? I don't know what her past is.
Maybe she's had kids before him. Right?
Excuse me.
Possibly. Maybe she's had kids before him. Maybe she's done her own background checks, right? And she has seen that she's fine. And maybe doctors told her that, auntie, maybe you're not the problem. Your husband might be the problem, right? There are different factors now.
Okay.
Different factors. They could take the traditional way. Maybe she consulted some traditionalists and they told her that your husband is the problem. There's so many factors. It's the way men also say some really, really business stuff that I would not say, but it's the same way women, I feel, can see these things and say, oh, my man is impotent.
Then they now, when they figure out by means of maybe a false information, then
they go to sperm banks.
Then no, some don't go to sperm banks first. They always want to try the efficacy. I beg your pardon. They always want to try the efficacy of some other natural sperm.
I'm not so. I can't really say anything about that option. Doctor. I'm just saying.
You are a medical doctor. That's why I'm asking you these questions.
Again, this is a gender stuff too, right? I'm a woman, and as much as I will admit that there are paternity frauds.
Good. Okay.
There's a high rate right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It has put us in a bad light. I can't further writing that bad light. So I would not be. I cannot concur with everything you're saying, even if some way you're right.
I'm honest, right?
Yeah, so I can't. Kids at the end of the year are secondary. I'm sorry to every parent out there. Believe me, this is a disclaimer. Kids
disclaimer, guys,
are very secondary. Like, in the grand scheme of things, I know that you love your child and all of that. They would leave you at the point. They would live their lives, and then it's you and your partner.
Yeah, we all did.
The together forever is now after they leave.
We all did. Yes.
What happens? What happens at that point?